Timber harvesting operations are not located on permanent sites. We must move our equipment from job site to job site. We're going to look today to see how we can legally and safely move our logging equipment on the roads of South Carolina. Remember, we must move legally and we must move safely. Hi, I'm Crad James, President of the South Carolina Timber Producers Association, and we're here today with Joey Austin of Austin Logging Incorporated from Gaston and Corporal Lee Cato of the South Carolina State Transport Police. We're here today to see how to securely and safely and legally transport logging equipment on the lowboy. We're happy to have Corporal Cato with us today so that he can explain all the necessary points of attachment and securement, because one thing we want to be very, very sure we are is legal and safe moving equipment on our state's highways.
Okay, so I've pulled the tractor up on the trailer. I've butted the blade against the frame of the trailer to secure it from rolling there, and I have let the grapple on the back all the way down against the trailer so it's not swinging. Released all the hydraulic pressure and everything should be ready to tie down.
So, we're getting ready to transport this piece of equipment. One of the main things we need to know is how heavy this equipment is. Being that the weight of this equipment, we have to have half the weight of this equipment in tie downs. So if we have a 50,000 pound piece of equipment, we need 25,000 pounds worth of tie downs and binders. That way we're going to safely be able to transport this equipment. And we need 4 points of contact because it's going to be more than 10,000 pounds. But we also are transporting equipment. We need to make sure that our binders and tie downs are in good working order, not just the equipment. Because if our binders aren't working well, then we're going to lose the equipment and possibly put ourselves in a situation where the company is going to have a liability problem if we cause a collision or unfortunately maybe a death. So make sure that when we inspect our equipment, we also inspect our chains and tie downs to make sure they aren't wallowing out in the middle or getting thin and need to be replaced. So one of the good rules of operation is probably to have them on a cycle that every 6 months or so we switch our chains and tie downs out to make sure they're good and strong to hold on this piece of equipment that we've invested a substantial amount of money in. Alright, so we've got our equipment loaded up here. It's been brought all the way to the front of the trailer to prevent any forward movement in the event of a sudden braking application. We've got our first tie down in place here. It is nice and tight. It comes to the frame of the vehicle because most of your vehicles will have a manufactured attachment point for where your tie downs need to go. You should never try to weld on an additional point because it's not going to have the same structural rigidity as it will coming straight from the factory. Another thing to keep in mind is anything that we add, even though we're trying to make it an attachment point, should something happen and that attachment point fails, it is going to put the company in liability status and in jeopardy. So we don't want to do that. But we got our binder tied down, we got our chains locked down, a good strong chain, so we're good here on this side. And once we're going to do this on the other side as well. Because of the size of this equipment, you need a minimum of 4 tie down points. With any time you have any piece of equipment that articulates in the middle, you have to secure that point. So we have a lock bar installed in this vehicle. If a lock bar is not available or it's broken or defective, then you must run a chain from one side to the other side to secure that point in the middle. Again, using safe chains, safe binders that will match up to the weight of the vehicle that has been there, that 50% rule that we discussed earlier. So we have a lock bar here. The parking brake is also set on the vehicle, so we are good to go. And now we're going to move to the rear of the vehicle and secure the rear attachment points and anything any of the grappling hooks and any other appendages on the vehicle. Now we have our 2 points that we've attached on the back for our third and fourth point. As you can see, they're wrapped around the axles, the chains are wrapped around, and they're crisscrossed. Now, you don't have to crisscross them. You can run that point to that side and the point on this side to this side. As long as you have 2 individual points on the back, you're going to be in compliance. You can run them crisscross, but like I say, we've got our chains here. Now, we don't want to attach to anything that's not a manufactured part or one of these weaker points, saying these fins up here. We want to be on a heavy duty part. If they don't have a portion on there, run it around your axles. Run it around the axles, and that way it is going to hold this vehicle down. Because in theory, with good load securement, what we want to be able to do is pick this trailer up, turn it upside down, and the load not fall off. That is what our good load securement practices are going to do. Next, we're going to move on to our attachments. We've got our grapple load down here. We've got another chain run through to prevent it from moving, swinging around left and right. But on this part, you do not have to run two different chains on it. Okay, one chain from one side through the other just to make sure that this does not move will suffice. And it'll get you right in line with those safe loading practices that we talked about. All right, so we've got our last chain here, and it is going across our blade on the front to make sure that there is no upward movement of this. Now, sometimes they'll be loaded onto a trailer, and it's not going to be all the way bumped up to the front, so you're definitely going to have it. And depending on how your trailer is made, if you can drop that bar in there, this blade in the front, to keep it from coming up, then that will suffice. But for good safe loading practices, let's go ahead and throw a chain on it anyway. So, to recap what we've done, we've got a piece of machinery that's over 10,000 pounds. It's going to require a minimum of 4 tie-down points, 4 separate tie-down points. In addition to that, we have an articulation point where we place the lock bar, or a chain if a lock bar is not available. Our parking brake has been set. All of our attachment points have been secured with good chains, good binders, nothing is sagging, and nothing is damaged. So we are ready to transport this load to wherever it goes. And remember, there's no shortcuts in safety. One last reminder before we get ready to go. Always take the time to do a good pre-trip on your vehicle before you leave the woods. Make sure your lights are working, your tires are good, don't have any sticks or debris in between your dual sets of tires. All your lights are working on the back end. And when we check our trailer before we leave, these are just leaves. You know, no harm, no foul there. Big pieces of rocks, other debris, maybe some change you may have forgotten about, always give it a good look over to make sure there's no loose dunnage on the trailer, because that is an out-of-service violation, and it's also a safety hazard. And the best thing we want to do is we want to maximize our profitability and limit our liability.
Remember, transporting timber harvesting equipment is a critical part of our industry, going from job site to job site. Always remember, move safe and move legal. It's certainly been an educational moment here today, and we hope this will help you in your business to know how to legally and safely transport logging equipment. We want to thank Joey Austin and Corporal Lee Cato for their time today to be with us, to take us through this exercise so that we know that we are compliant with the law and we are safe on our state's highways. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We're here with Bob Lusher, president of Great Woods Companies LLC in Bennettsville, South Carolina, and J.J. Lemire. He is the loss control director for Forestry Mutual Insurance Company. We're going to talk about safety in loading and unloading track machines, and also safety around the machine. We're also going to look at securement of a track machine so that you can transport your logging equipment legally and safely.
In today's presentation, what we want to do is to be able to show you how to be safe when you're around the equipment that's being loaded or unloaded. We want to show you the areas where you may be injured. We want to teach you how to keep your hands, your feet, your face out of the areas that can get you harmed.
One of the big things we want to showcase, getting on and off any equipment, track equipment, trucks, rubber tired equipment, is make sure you always keep 3 points of contact when you're entering or exiting a vehicle. always tell my drivers to stand, wait till the truck is unhooked from a detachable trailer and stand off to the side before they put the ramps down. That way there are no area of contact to get pinched.
In this scenario, you saw Bob do some things that are of noteworthy for safety. As he was lowering the trailer down off of the hydraulic lift, he stood to the side and he looked before he did it so that his feet were not up underneath the front end of the trailer. We've had some crushing injuries in the past where an operator has not taken the time to look for foot placement, and that individual has had some serious problems with his feet. The other thing that he did is he told us about standing off to the side so that in the event that any of the brakes on the trucks may have failed, he would not be between the trailer and the truck. These ramps are pretty heavy. One of the things we want to do is to make sure that we're using proper lifting techniques so that you don't hurt your lower backs as you're lifting this heavy weight.
What we tried to do, if you notice, we always try to have the operator load the machine and the truck driver to guide the operator on. That way the machine is put on straight. You know the weight is supposed to be where it's supposed to be. If something happens to the equipment operator or the truck driver, you have two people there, so somebody is there to help the other person with first aid or to call emergency services. The other thing we want to touch base on is loggers are not making money when they're moving. We're always in a hurry when we're trying to move. Usually we're doing this a little slower because we're making a video and trying to make sure we drill in and becomes a habit with the safety parts of loading and unloading a machine. But usually there's 3 or 4 guys around when we're trying to move, trying to get a machine on and get it chained down as quickly as we can to get to the next track because we need to make money. But guys, we can't put a price on safety. We need to take our time and think through what we're doing so somebody does not get injured. What we're trying to do when we're securing a machine, whether it's a piece of tracked equipment, whether it's a rubber tired piece of equipment, is we need to have it secured from 4 independent points that need to be independent of one another. Whatever attachment is on the machine needs to be secured. So on this track cutter, we're going to do 4 binders from the tracks to the frame of the trailer. They're all independent. They're all rated for whatever the safety rating is for whatever your machine weighs for. We're going to secure the boom with 1 other chain and 1 other binder in the rear.
All right, another consideration for safety is that as you are securing the load, whether it be with the binders, with straps, chains, whatever it may be, there are some known pinch points that you need to be aware of. As you're hooking up the chains down here at the bottom, one of the things is that the weight of some of these items are enough that if you get your finger caught in between them as you are tightening the binder, you can pinch your fingers. On the implements themselves, there is a chance that if you do not relieve the hydraulic pressure, you have an opportunity to get your hands in areas down here at the bottom or up here near the chain, that if that implement moves at the time that you are securing your chains and binders, that you could have a crushing injury.
This trailer is equipped with strobe lights that are independent from the lighting system of the truck. So if we were to be unloading or loading on the side of the road, we can keep these strobe lights on to try to inform the public that we're here. A lot of them don't pay attention, but we're trying to do the right thing and trying to reduce our liability.
When we're moving logging equipment safely and legally, always have your oversized sign on the front and the back of the lowboy. That way, oncoming traffic and traffic behind you can see the sign and know this is an oversized load. Now, we loaded a track feller buncher today, and the securement points were already mentioned. 4 independent points and securing the feller buncher head. But the same is true when you're moving a bulldozer. 4 independent points plus the blade has to be secured because it is an attachment. All because it's safety, safety, safety. We want to move our logging equipment safely and legally.
As a reminder, we just want to make sure that you take away some items with you. Number one, no employee's injury is worth being in such a hurry. That person is one of your most valuable resources. Take the time to do it right. Doing it right over and over again produces a habit, and good habits are one of your greatest tools against injuries.
I want to reinforce what JJ said. My employees are my greatest asset. We all should value our employees and value their safety and their health. We're one of the few companies around, we pay all of our drivers by the hour. I don't care if it takes them an extra 10 minutes, an extra 15 minutes to put this machine on safely, to reduce my liability going down the road, to have the driver safe going down the road, to take his time going where he's going, especially with a machine of this size. Our employees are our greatest asset in a small business.
We want to thank Bob Lusher of Great Woods Companies and JJ Lamar with Forestry Mutual Insurance Company for helping us with the securement video today.